Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for this safe version 1 series on how to configure and run safe using version 1. We've gone through a couple different sections already. So we went through the portfolio planning section as well as the admin section in some previous demonstrations. So if you want to check out those other recordings, feel free to see those. Today we're going to be going over the PI and release planning section, and then we will also have a team planning session that we will do as a separate video as well. So just a quick note about how these menus work once again. So we've set the level here over on the left-hand side. So the planning level that we have set there dictates all of the different other menus that we're going to use. In this case, the release planner section here that we've got set. We can also go in and we can set that view here using the My Views. We've already done that, and we've gone down to our art level, which is the call center. And that's a view that we're going to be using today as we go through and start to do our 2-day release planning session. So when we did our portfolio, we created our epics and our features, and now we have our features in a prioritized list. That's what we're seeing here on this specific screen as we go into the release planner, release scheduling. This is that prioritized list of features. If we want to go ahead and change that list, we can come over here, we can go in and we can rank those, and we can rank them if we wanted to by weighted shortest job first, which we have set here because we have the values planned on those features. If we rank them by that, this is how we would order them and how we would want to do them in which order. We won't go ahead and change that right now, but we could go ahead and re-rank them and set it by that value if we wanted to. Let's go ahead and cancel that. The way this screen works is there are 2 different levels. So the top level here is the call center or the art level. And this shows us our Agile release train and all of the work that we want to plan into that release train. So we've already said these are our top features. In this case, our top 5 or 6 features. You could have up to 25 or more features in here. The next level down are the releases that we have. So we have PI1 and PI2, and these are the 2 PIs, and I'm using the word release and PI kind of synonymously here, but this is the PI or program increment level that we want to go ahead and manage. So the goal here is to move the right features as we're planning what we're going to build into PI1 from this feature list over here into PI1 or into PI2. So our prioritized list, we should take off the top if that's the way we want to order them, and then we'll move them down here into the PI. By clicking on the white space here on the PI, that'll show me the detailed work of what's already in PI1. So you can see I've highlighted now in blue the PI the program increment here on the left-hand side, and this is showing me the minimum marketable features that we're planning on building in PI1 now. The backlog label at the top here has changed. Now we're looking at this for program increment 1. This can also include the individual stories that are planned underneath that feature. So as we build out and we plan the different work under there, we can plan those stories and see the detailed work under there. Ultimately, this is going to be our minimum marketable features and our MVP that we want to deliver for the solution that we're going to be delivering in program increment number 1. If I go back up to the call center, we want to try to move some work, add some additional work into program increment 1. And we have a couple different values here, so we can look at our capacity. It looks like we're already over capacity for the feature points. So our target swag or feature points is 100 that we've set for this PI, and right now we're at 141. So we don't want to add any more into that from a target swag perspective. From a story points perspective, it's not quite as bad of a story, but we've got a target of 100 story points, and we're only at 46. So we either haven't sized all those stories yet on those features, or maybe we don't have stories yet planned into those features. So that, again, just tells us we want to be careful about adding too many more features onto the specific program increment. We can also see that at a team level, so each team has their own value set here as well. Those targets can be set here at a release level, so you go into the release and set the targets there, or they can be set at a team level when I go into the team record, and I can edit the team record and set those targets as well. I can also assign the feature right to a team. So if I dragged it over and put it right on the core app team, that's going to assign this work right to that specific team, and then they'll be responsible for building the feature and all the stories underneath there, although you can align other teams to that as well. So that's the first thing, is making sure we plan the work into the right PI or release. If in this case, some of these features, maybe I'll just plan them right down and drop it onto PI2 because it looks like we don't want to put any more features in PI1. Once we have the program increment plan, the teams will start to break out that work into user stories. Again, we can do it right here, or we can do it under product planning. So we'll go ahead and add those stories in here if we want to. And then we want to align those stories both to teams and then to objectives. So in our program increment, we're going to set certain objectives, and we can add them right in here. We can say if they're a stretch objective or not. And then at the team level, we can add those objectives down here as well. So I can create a team objective, in this case, a 5% revenue goal for the core for the core app team. Here's a couple stories that don't have an objective yet on there, so I can drag the story right over and drop it onto that objective and say, this is how we're going to achieve that objective. That 5% revenue goal is going to be satisfied if we complete this specific user story. Now, the business team can put in the business value plan number, in this case 10 points, and the business value actual number when we deliver this, and they said you actually delivered 9 points worth of work. Now, by adding that objective in here and creating a new objective, or just using this one, now we can use that number to look at our program predictability across the teams. And when I run this predictability report, this shows us how each of the teams has performed. So the Bears team had a bad first game, but looks like they did a lot better, and their performance was much better in game 2, or in release 2 here for PI. The core app team, they almost achieved all of the value that they said they were going to deliver in PI 1, but then when they got to PI 2 and they delivered that value, they fell a little bit short. So we can help them with some retrospective action items and try to correct that issue. So the whole goal here is to get within this target performance range of 80 to 100%. So that's where we're aiming, and that's what we want this performance to be as we plan that work. So this is that first part of PI planning, is just making sure that the work is aligned, that we understand exactly what the minimum marketable features are in that work, and that it's aligned both in terms of team and then the capacity that we have for those teams to make sure that we haven't overbuilt anything in there. In addition to that, each story can have dependencies on those stories. So when we start to create those dependencies, we can go into the release planner and look at our program board. The program board will allow us to see the cross-team dependencies that we have on there. So in this case, I'm on the program board, I'm filtering for my team, and I can see who's in my way and where am I in the way of some other team. So here's the features that I'm responsible for as the owner of the Lions team. And here I've got a story called Hold Order that needs to get done before I can finish the work that's on this specific feature in Sprint 3. But it looks like Hold Order isn't planned yet. We don't have Hold Order planned into one of our sprints yet. So what we would do there is we would open up the details for Hold Order, talk to the product owner on that team and say, hey, can you plan that into a sprint? And they'd say, yeah, I can probably put it into Sprint 2. So we'll plan that work, we'll put it into Sprint 2. When I tab off of that saves that Hold Order into Sprint 2. Now if we refresh the screen here, rerun our plan, it looks like Hold Order now is upstream, so we know that we can go ahead and get that work done, and we don't need to worry about when we can deliver that, because now Hold Order is in the right order, so we can deliver that on time. Okay, so that just gives us a view into that and how we can manage that work. Again, we're looking at upstream and downstream dependencies of work that we have on the individual stories. We can also look at this, instead of doing it from a sprint base, we can look at it from a date-based perspective and look at specific dates. And again, this is just an example of how that specific screen works. We'll reload it one more time and show you the Hold Order back over as I moved it out of that sprint again. So that's the PI release planner section of that. You can put regression testing in there as well. And again, we look at the program board and the forecasting side of that. That's really what we need to do in order to set the schedule and set what we want to build. We also want to make sure that we have the right work in there, the right user stories that are broken down. The next section where the teams will start to break that work down into their sprints and then plan that work in terms of tasks will be done in the team section, and we'll handle that when we cover the team values and the team areas there. Just a few other additional reports that you can see here. There's a couple of different PI and release burn down charts that we can see. So again, if we are burning that work down, you can see that at different levels. So this will allow us to track and manage all of that work for the current level, or we can go down to an individual PI in this case, and we can look at that work and see how we're doing in terms of burning down the work and tracking all of that work as we go through. So as we get more data in there and you start to actually plan and work out that program increment, we'll be able to work on that and watch that work as it starts to burn down and complete. So just a couple examples of that. This is showing us additional reports that we can see on there. It allows us to see one more. I'll just look at portfolio item dependency report. So if we want to track those individual dependencies, we can look at it from a backlog perspective. It'll show us where we have specific backlog dependencies. I don't know if we have any in here on this one. Yeah, so here we go. We have individual stories that are dependent upstream and downstream on other stories. So just another visualization of the individual stories. This is order check and everything we need to do to get order check completed from a feature perspective. So that's a high level view of the PI release planning section. We will be covering team next, so if you have any additional questions, let us know, and thanks. Have a great day.